Hello and welcome back to our daily Africa Cup of Nations coverage, and back to speak all about the football from today are both Tando Sibia. Good evening, Tando. Tando, who's smiling from the outside, but a little bit more upset from the inside. We'll be talking all about that in just a few moments' time. And Karim Balde, who's all smiles, he's heading off to Morocco to catch all of the action tomorrow. Here are today's results before we get into the games. Cameroon have just beaten South Africa 2-1, while earlier today Morocco beat Tanzania in a very tough 1-0 win for them. Let's begin with tonight's later game then. Cameroon, who've just beaten then South Africa, and with that having wrapped up. Let's head, if we can, to Rabat. We'll speak to Selina in just a second before she leaves the stadium. But first, just here, everything's just wrapped up now. Tano, I've got to start with you. It was a big game coming in. Cameroon versus South Africa. We knew it was going to be rough. Only one side could get through. How do you feel about that today? Are you disappointed with the way that things went for South Africa, especially considering the chances that they had?
Deeply. I think attacking-wise, South Africa came in and dominated the first half. Relebogile and Mofokeng had a very good first half. I just think the clinical finishing was where they lacked. And going back home, I think these are the things that they're definitely going to have to work on. Shout out, though, to midfielder Tebogo Mokoena, who did an exceptional job. He was in the middle, he created the chances, dropped down to defense where needed, and then moved up front to try and even create some chances. Mudau was also incredible in his flank, just also fell short. There was no one there to neutralize Mbeumo. Very fast pace. I just don't understand how the defense wasn't focused on him. A couple of defensive errors, which I do think is where South Africa lost the whole game. I don't necessarily think Cameroon was the strongest side, but they capitalized on the mistakes. No,
they certainly weren't the strongest side, especially in the start of the game. Cameroon were completely dominated at that point, and that is when South Africa, as you say, should have taken the lead, and that's in the end cost them because Cameroon grew into this game.
Yeah, in the first 20 minutes, it was a one-sided game for South Africa. And then all of a sudden, Cameroon found a way to come back. And this is the sign of their mindset. Throughout the competition, we saw it with David Pago's players. Each and every time, they find solutions in their head just to go further, to go beyond, to do what everyone think they couldn't do, to be honest, because it seems like unpredictable to see Cameroon in the quarterfinals of that AFCON when we remind of what happened a month ago with the sacking of Marc Brice, former head coach. So yeah, they always have ways to find solutions. And just kudos to Nagida, for example. He didn't play a lot with Rennes, his club in France. He was put into the pitch because of an injury during the first half, and then he delivered an assist, and he go out because of an injury, by the way. But yeah, those kind of players, we didn't see them during the season with our clubs, and all of a sudden they became like, not superstars, but they became the right guys at the right moment, and that's what David Pago found in his squad since the beginning of the competition.
Yeah, indeed. It was not the easiest way for them to go through, but huge in that way. Let's head to the stadium where it all unfolded. Selina's on the line with us. Selina Sykes. Tell us, Selina, that was something again for us to watch there. Cameroon going through. It already started up. When I have to say, Stoke City defender Chamadou managed to get that opening goal for them. After that, Cameroon did look more solid. How was it over there in the stadium? How did you see things unfold over there?
Well, a very impressive performance from Cameroon, James, beating South Africa 2-1 here in Rabat. They looked in control pretty much throughout the game. South Africans did have their shots too, but Cameroon, really impressive performance from them. As you said, it was a junior Chamadou who opened the scoring in the 34th minute with a close-range shot getting into the back of the net, and another goal came from Cameroon in the 47th minute, a header from Christian Kofan. South Africa knocked on the door, but just didn't seem to have that extra panache to get on to the to get a goal into the back of the net. It was right at the end of the game, as is often the case here at AFCON, that we had a bit of last-minute drama with evidence. Mac Gopa getting a goal for the South Africans in the 88th minute. A bit of a scrap in the box and a bit of an altercation after that one, but Cameroon are holding on there to get that 2-1 win. As you can potentially hear behind me, a lot of atmosphere inside the stadium during that game. The Cameroon fans are vastly outnumbering the South African fans, and I think that we can maybe expect them to rival Moroccan fans a little bit for an atmosphere in the stadium for that quarter-final clash. And what a quarter-final clash that will be, James.
We know that the Indomitable Lions fans can make a lot of noise, so we can hear it from all over here in Paris there. Selena, we'll come back to you in just a minute. Tando, we were talking about just earlier on, Mahopa coming on. Was that something that you would have changed earlier on in the game had you been in the manager's seats, in Hugo Bross's seats?
Had I been in his seat perhaps earlier into the game, just as we come into the second half, yes. Would I have started him, considering how Oswald has been performing in the previous 3 games in the AFCON? I would have given him his start. So it just was a mistake. But also coming in against opponents like Cameroon, you have a Cameroonian defense, just like we said yesterday with Mali. Very lanky, very tall. And so if you're going to have those long balls, which is how eventually South Africa saw that they needed to get the ball into the box, you even saw...
It seemed like that came on so late on that they actually realised, okay, this is the way we do it. Because
even Williams was coming up front to make the long balls for them. And I was like, guys, how did it take you all of 89 minutes to see this? But Evidence Mahopa did exactly what I know him to do. I was so happy because when Asesi did that, even when they were coming in with the long balls, he had the height advantage. I think 2 times even... Epasi hitting the back of his head, they were at the same level when they were jumping. And so that was where the chances could have been coming from, because you look at the attack for South Africa, they were all small. Oswald is about like 167 or something like that, or 17 meters. Then you look at Relebohile Mofokeng, he's not very tall either. Then you have Lyle Foster, who was really in the box to receive the provision for him. And so Evidence Mahopa was definitely the key player that was needed in the South African offense. Also, the midfield, I think I was a little bit concerned with where the opportunities came from. Yes, Kabini came on in replacement for Sipombule, but I do think that Sipombule was a little bit chastised after the game against Egypt. He should have started this game. I think he had a little bit more experience. He would have had a better game. Kabini was coming on for the first time in a long time. And so I do think that there could have been a thing to neutralize. But as far as Cameroon is concerned, I do think that what worked to their advantage is the fact that 100% of their team is based abroad. And so when it comes to tactics, they understand the game very well and they know how to read the game. So you don't even have to coach them to do that. And so that's perhaps the shortcoming of South Africa, is that tactically it's not exactly the same as what you'll find in the Northern Hemisphere when it comes to football.
Yeah, but it's surprising because South Africa...
It's getting there.
Yeah, but they say it's like in South Africa, all of your players play in the South African League, and they all play for like 3 or 4 clubs.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that exactly be an advantage that they actually know each other and would be able to play better in the competition?
You'd think so, but it didn't necessarily happen that way, because also don't forget that you have a coach who's Hugo Broos. He's not a coach in South African football. He was a coach for Cameroon. And so when he's coming into this one, he's saying, look, here are your opponents. I don't necessarily care what you guys are playing. Like in the Premiership back at home, this is who we're facing, and this is how we're going to line ourselves up against them. And so tactically, you need to be more organized, because that's what you're playing against. So you're not necessarily playing against a TS Galaxy. You're not playing against...
Pirates.
Exactly. So I think that was where the changes came from. But if they had continued playing the domestic style, maybe it could have worked to their advantage, because they would be a little bit more relaxed. And that's where then they would be able to perform a lot better.
Yeah, and last of all, South Africa, you talked about the offense and the midfield, but we have to talk about defense. Because defensively, South Africa was well known for being a solid team, and we saw it throughout the qualifiers. And during this AFCON, they conceded goals in each and every game. 6 goals conceded in 4 games. How can you explain that, by the way? Because that was a question. Sorry to bother you on that, because I know that you have you feel some pain tonight. But still, I don't understand why that strong defense wasn't able to reach that level during the group stage and now the round 16 of the competition.
That's definitely a question we're going to have to find out with Coach Hugo Broos then, like what's happening defensively for the South African team. But I do think that up front, we also needed a little bit more experience. So you needed Mshishi, who didn't make it in this squad. And you also needed a Thembinkosi Lodge, who is actually doing quite well right now, but because of the reasons and disputes between himself, the Federation, Bruce, there's something that's just not connecting, and so he wasn't called up for the side. Also, I do think that these players who are performing and doing really well, they deserve to get a call-up, and I do think that they did a good job in this, and so there's something to build from. Is Hugo Broos going to be there to carry them through to the next one? Perhaps not, but maybe this can be the same story as we saw with MS5, who then picks up the side that has a good solid foundation and then builds from that. Coach Pitso Msimane is back in South Africa. Rulani Mukwena is back in South Africa. These are coaches who went and coached Wydad in Casablanca, in Morocco. And so they brought in that style of play. They understand the coaching style. There's also gotten a little bit more experience getting the UEFA Pro license. And so you understand that they are a lot of South African coaches who are being educated. There's a lot of investment that is being put into the structures. And so this is not the end of South Africa in African continental football. And I do think that in the next editions of the African Cup of Nations, at least it's not 4 years from now. We'll see.
3-4 years, we don't know.
No, we've got 2 years to go.
Time.
So we'll
it's a bit of an early exit,
good.
isn't it? Especially for a team that we saw go so far last time around. We're a bit all surprised. But I mean, when you got a fixture like that, it comes up in the round of 16. There's no two ways about it, really.
Yeah.
Let's move to the team that Cameroon will be facing, of course, in the quarterfinals. That's being Morocco. This after the home nation just about beat Tanzania in tonight's earlier game. The Atlas Lions facing much tougher opposition than expected. Tanzania weren't far from opening the score in the 3rd minute. Morocco had to wait for the second half as they managed to get the one and only goal to take them through to the quarterfinals. Let's go back to Rabat. Selena, that must have not been, as I mentioned, the easiest one for Moroccans to watch. What is the feeling like in there? Was that a bit of, I mean, has that brought any confidence or not after that game today?
I think we're maybe back to the sort of feeling after that draw against Mali. It wasn't an easy one, was it? It was up against a very stubborn Tanzania side, it has to be said. But we didn't see Morocco shining how I think many fans maybe would have expected against, obviously, a weaker side in terms of a team sheet. Morocco, obviously, dominating in possession, having a lot of chances, but they did have a few scares. Tanzania did get a few close calls on the Moroccan goals. I think it's safe to say Moroccan fans expected a bigger scoreline. James, obviously, they are happy with the qualification to the quarterfinals. Obviously, banishing the demons of the last AFCON in Ivory Coast, when they obviously crashed out at this stage against South Africa, no less. So I think, obviously, fans were expecting more goals against Tanzania. They obviously wanted a bigger performance because it's obviously now the knockout stages and they're expecting their team to hit their better form now. But obviously now with this big quarter-final against Cameroon, now fans are going to be really expecting Morocco to hit their top form right now, because this is when they're going to need it. This is going to be their first really big test, and we'll have to wait and see, because until now Morocco have been not maybe as impressive as we expected them to be, James.
Slow one here. Now, manager Wade Regragui after the game said that this was actually kind of a good way to start the knockout rounds. I mean, I saw more an anxious team on the pitch and one that was worrying that, disaster could strike. Whose side are you on, Karen, when you hear that?
We saw post-game footages of the Moroccan national team not cheering out loud, but just gathering all together with Wade Regragui in the middle of the huddle saying, well, this is our mission. He's in a mission just to win the AFCON for the first time in more than 50 years. That's all that it matters for him.
And at home.
And at home. Obviously, that wasn't the best game ever. Obviously, Moroccan performance can be discussed. We can discuss on that. But still, at the end, one for Morocco, no goal for Tanzania. That's all what it matters for Wade Regragui. And I understand him, because so many times before they have great players, good quality, and nothing at the end. So that's why I'm on his side for the moment. I'm on the boat.
Okay, so you say, right, we get the job done. But I see a lot of problems in that as well, because Morocco could have scored so much earlier on than when, once again, Brahim Diaz scoring, as I mentioned, 3 goals in 3 games for him. But they should have scored much, much earlier on. So if it wasn't for that, who knows where things would have gone? Because I think a host nation who's at 0-0 in a round of 16 against what is considered a much lower ranked side anyway, is going to start panicking. And at that point, I mean, Tanzania could have taken complete advantage of them. El Kabi missing 2 headers at one point, crucial for them. I mean, up front, they need to sort things out, don't they, Tanda?
They do, but I think looking at how those chances were missed, it was during a super pacey run. I think even for him to make contact with the ball in front of goal mouth was impressive for me. So I do think that in the beginning, it was a little bit difficult for the Moroccans up front, and they were looking for chances. In the post-match interview, Walid did say, Coach Walid Regragui, I'll get it one day.
So sometimes not the easiest.
He did say that tactically they were not in their best form for the first half. He was impressed, yes, like you said, for the second one. And like Karim said, he's looking for results. Also considering that Azedine Ounahi was out, and that's something that happened just yesterday because he was present for training.
And that's a major
He was
blow.
it's a major
huge blow,
blow.
of course,
This is a
midfield
person
and
who's
out
been
for the rest of
starting
the
solid in
tournament.
midfield. Yes, you have Achraf Hakimi coming back, but you also want the consistency. And so you have the return of one good player, but who hasn't been there since the beginning. And then you have the exit of a really strong player who's been carrying the side really well, ushering the midfield. So you do see that sometimes those changes do impact some teams in way of on the day of play, where they find opportunities, where they seek out creativity. And the absence of Ounahi was really felt today. Yes, they were able to make up for it. But yesterday I did say that Tanzania is not going to be an easy opponent. Going into the rest of the tournament, they're not going to be facing easy opponents either. This is Morocco. And so they have a lot of homework to do. But I do think that if they keep playing like this, they're not going to make it, or they'll just keep scraping through. But yes, at this point, once you've made it to quarterfinals or semifinals of the World Cup and you've achieved all the feats that Coach Walid and his side have achieved, the last feather in your hat is the African Cup of Nations. How you get there, it doesn't matter. And that's probably the mandate that he received. We don't care how you do it, just do it. Because we're playing at home, so just deliver. And it really gets that intense. You saw what happened to the Gabonese side. It was literally dissolved after their elimination. I did say that on the continent, it's not jokes.
There's no
jokes.
pity
It's
going
like
on.
a
happen once you're
presidential
out.
run. Once you're out, you're done. Like,
Anything can happen.
your career's done. You can even leave the country if you must. If they give you a house, it's gone. It's somebody
It
else.
happens to some head
It's
coaches in
really
the past.
intense. Yeah.
It's rough. We spoke, of course, about one man coming back in, Achraf Hakimi. Can't not talk about him today. It's the first time that we saw him play for 90 minutes in this tournament. What did you make of that, Cam?
I was convinced.
He was quick. I mean, he's come back from injury. Of course, it's been quite a while. I mean, he was full on pace today.
He's in good shape, you know,
good shape.
and that's why they acknowledge that he has a great recovery thanks to the PSG medical staff and then with the national team. And we saw him today from minute one, even during the first half. It could have been
It was a little bit neutralized there, pace-wise by
neutralized,
Suleiman Mwalimu.
But the more we advance into the game, the more Achraf Hakimi could find his pace and get advantage on his opponents, and that's why he delivered the assist. On his assist for the goal of Morocco scored by Brahim Diaz, you see his work on his side, like two players off, and then he can deliver the assist. That's the Achraf Hakimi style. He was everywhere. He was there for corner kicks. He was there for free kicks. One of them went up to the crossbar. He was there on the defensive side as well, obviously. He was everywhere. That's the Achraf Hakimi we know for a while here in Paris, but also with the national team. He's a captain. He's a leader. And that's why, even if they have many quality players, they are sometimes Hakimi, they are reliable to Hakimi to be better and better. And that can be a problem, but now he's here and it's good for Morocco.
Yeah, of course, might be good for them going forward. In any case, we're already halfway round through halfway through the round of 16. 4 more games that means to come. 2 of them taking place tomorrow. Let's take a look at them now. First up, Egypt will be taking on Benin. After that, it's Nigeria versus Mozambique. Those results also from yesterday, as in case you missed it, Senegal, who go through, and Mali as well on penalties there. The winners of tomorrow's will be going head-to-head in the quarterfinals. And let's start with Egypt then versus Benin. 16 years since the two sides last met. The Pharaohs are unbeaten and were able to rest some of their best players in their game. Defender Mohamed Hani will be back after being sent off in their game against South Africa, but it isn't just about the defence, of course. They won't be taking this one lightly. After exiting, of course, last time round in the round of 16, they're not going to be taking the foot off the pedal in this one. But, I mean, I'd say take the foot off the pedal. Have they actually put the foot properly on the pedal? Yes, Egypt.
No, not really. Not as much as I think they are capable of doing. The game against South Africa, the win, I don't think it was a fair one. And so I do think that even them doing their homework, they definitely have to work on a few things coming into the next one. Mo Salah, he's been doing good. Definitely going to be watching out for the other key players. You have a Marmoush that needs to be neutralized as well. But it's going to be a difficult one for Benin, but I don't think I can outrightly say, okay, Egypt can win this one, because we've seen in the previous couple of games that it's any man's game.
Yeah, it's a big game also to come against for Benin, of course. Our team on the ground has been sitting down with their manager to get some insights into how they're preparing this as the clear underdogs, of course, going into this game. Here's Gunnar Raw speaking to my colleague from the French channel, Cédric Ferreira. Take a listen.
On fait pas de complexe, on n'a rien à perdre.
We don't have any
On veut faire un
complexes.
bon match.
We have nothing to
On veut
lose.
jouer
We want
notre
to play a
chance
good
à
match.
fond.
We want to give it
Et
our
je
all.
pense que
And I think that
avec,
with what we've learned
qu'on a
from the first
appris dans
games,
les trois
my
premiers
young
matchs,
players will give their
comme jeunes
maximum.
joueurs, vont faire le maximum. On a
We
des
had
petits
some
soucis
small
de
injury
blessures,
issues,
hein,
like
comme
all
toutes les
teams,
équipes.
but we'll face
On
that
fera
to
face à
present a
ça
very united
pour
front.
présenter un collectif très solidaire. Je pense que la clé, ce sera de museler l'attaque
I think the
égyptienne.
key will be to neutralize the
Avec
Egyptian
Marmoush,
attack
avec
with
Salah,
Marmoush and
avec,
Salah.
Trezeguet, tous ces grands
They're all
joueurs.
great
Ça
players.
sera aussi de bien contre-attaquer.
It will also be
Je
about
pense
counter-attacking
que,
well.
si
And
on
I
marque
think that
un
if we
premier
score
but,
the first goal, anything
tout est
can be
possible dans
possible.
ce match. Voire même que si
Even
on
if we don't
n'encaisse
concede
pas
a
de
goal,
but,
everything is still possible
également,
because they will be
c'est
forced to
possible
take
parce qu'ils
risks to
seront
honor their
obligés de prendre
status.
des risques
And that's where
pour,
maybe our chance
faire,
lies.
honneur à leur statut. Eh bien, c'est là que peut être notre chance.
So that's where the tactics lie there. The aim of trying to get Egypt, of course, to take risks there. That's going to be all about the counter for them. But, of course, defence is going to be crucial for Benin tomorrow.
Yes, exactly, and they have to contain the return of Mohamed Salah and Marmoush because the thing is that Benin doesn't score goals. They have only scored once since the beginning of this AFCON. It was against Botswana. No offense to Botswana, but still, that was the only goal of the competition so far. They lost 3-0 versus Senegal, and then they lost the first game versus DRC, which means that they can't really rely on their offensive side, despite they have good players. Steve Mooney, obviously. They have also Junior Olaitan, who is doing great in the last month, but still, this is not the main force. They will have to keep their defense, and they will try to keep the scoreless draw as long as possible to put some doubts into Egyptians' mind. Maybe that could be the only solution for Benin to go through in this game.
How do you do that? I mean, when you've got an attacking line that's made up of Mohamed Salah, Trezeguet, of course, Marmoush as well, how when you're Benin and you come up against... I mean, we heard the manager actually in the same interview just earlier, a little earlier on in the interview, he was talking about how those three are worth more than his whole team. How does the team, Tando, come into that and just psychologically get ready to face, I mean, world-class players?
You do it like how the previous opponents have been doing it. You do it the same way South Africa did it. You focus and you concentrate on defense, which I think they can be neutralized. If you have a defender who's going to be doing the same thing that Mbegezeli Mbogazi did against Mo Salah, that I think was one of his standout games. If I might make a slight mention, I know we're not talking about South Africa, but he had a really impressive game tonight as well. So yeah, maybe a move outside of the United States can be good for him. But I do think that if defensively they keep it tidy, they don't make room for errors. And like the manager said, keep a clean sheet. Because I think as soon as they get a goal up, that's when they get into the minds. In the previous game, you did see even the head coach just making the signals of it's all in the mind, it's all in the mind. So I do think that Egypt tends to play a mental game. And so if you can keep the psychological composure in the game, he does have a young side. So I do think that becomes a little bit of a challenge. But if you can stay in the game, move up front, create one or two chances early into the game so that you stay into it knowing that you don't have a 0 on the score sheet, then I do think that it can keep their confidence in their head in the games, because I do think that's where South Africa struggled a little bit.
Absolutely. I think you said the key word there, composure. Cam, you want to
Yeah, let's not forget that Benin did it in 2019 versus Morocco, same level of competition, round of 16. Morocco was the main favorite of that competition with Hakim Ziyech, and then it was a draw, and it went to a shootout, and Benin won this game to go through to the quarterfinals. So I think that every supporters of Cheetahs will keep that in mind before tomorrow's game.
And if they'll take any example of Morocco's, of course, game today, then that'll be one to watch out for. Well, after that, one of the other giants of the tournament, Nigeria, will be taking on Mozambique. Mozambique, who won their first ever game at the Africa Cup of Nations after beating Gabon in the group stage. They'll be facing a very informed Super Eagles side. Nigeria won all 3 of their group stage games. 8 goals scored by Nigeria, but they let half as many in. No clean sheets for the Super Eagles. Is it their defence that they need to be worried about?
Yeah, that's a problem. And I said it in the show in the past days. This is a problem. And when we look at the scenarios of games, even versus Tunisia, they were leading 3-0 after 70 minutes. And then Tunisia was able to score twice. This is the kind of thing, it couldn't happen and it shouldn't happen in a knockout stage. Now, this is serious matters. So they have to be better defensively, and especially when they are in the lead, when there is no problem, they always find a way to get into trouble. So they have just to avoid that, to get a quiet round of 16 game, and then to be maybe in a better mentality for quarterfinals in terms of defense. Because offensively, obviously, we all know the stars. Osimhen, for example, Lookman, we all know it. And they can score 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 goals tomorrow. But they will have to keep their mind when they lead, just to keep it down, to keep it calm, and to maintain themselves at the same level that when they are not leading the game.
Exactly. And Jenny Gassamo, of course, who has scored twice for Mozambique coming into it. So, and pretty stunning goals as well for him. There's some, there's good play in there. But Mozambique, Ivory Coast, Cameroon, now Nigeria. I mean, this is exceptional for them in the sense that they made it through to the round of 16, but they're not having it easy at all. And again, I mean, we talk about, the mental side of these smaller teams, but has perhaps that, I mean, I know they lost against Cameroon, but 2-1, not such a bad result at all. Do you think that's maybe given them a little bit of confidence when they come up against someone?
Also bearing in mind that, sorry, James, bearing in mind that the second goal was an own goal. It's for Cameroon. So Nene, he wants to come in here and right the wrongs of his previous doing. So coming into this game, I think they're going to come in a little bit clearer with their mentality and a little bit more polished. So also being polished when you're facing a side like Nigeria, I do agree with Karim that when it comes to the end of the game, there is a decline in concentration for the Nigerian side. I do hope that they take the criticism and that they make the necessary observations and they fix it accordingly. Push as many goals up front then. If you know that you concede, put in 5 and concede 2.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
we said, this is a tournament, guys. We're at knockout stages. All that matters is a win. So I do think that when it comes to other things like maybe league football or so and so, then you're more concerned about keeping a clean sheet and so on. But I do think that Nwabali's defense is going to have to be a little bit more solid so that the pressure doesn't always fall on him. Because if the defense gets a little bit fatigued towards the end of the game, that's when a lot of pressure falls onto him. And yes, he's quite strong, but I do think that he needs a lot of more support.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say no to a little bit of drama on the pitch in any case. Tando, thank you very much. Karim, thank you as well. We'll be speaking to you, of course, as you head to Morocco tomorrow.
Yes.
We'll be speaking to you from over there. Have a good flight and enjoy,
Thank you.
of course, all the tournaments over there. We'll be staying here in the studios and talking all about the football for the rest of the tournament every single match day. Catch us at the very same time. See you tomorrow. Have a good night.